Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗨𝗟𝗧𝗦, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. I don't even know if we can call this important news out of Awakn today. Literally, guys, it is groundbreaking. It's paradigm shifting. And with us to talk about it, you can see him on the screen. Anthony Tennyson is the CEO of Awakn, trades in Canada under AWKN, and for friends in the US, AWKNF. For those new to the story, because you saw this simply incredible headline, and you're probably very interested in psychedelics and ketamine and that burgeoning industry. To understand Awakn, all you have to understand is this: psychedelics are going to go through what we call a parabolic paradigm shifting growth curve next 5 years, because their ability to treat anxiety, depression, and addiction, amongst other things. Awakn is a biotech company developing psychedelic medicine to treat addiction specifically, but they've also got clinical operations to both conduct the research and the treatments. And they've already got first mover advantage for clinics in the UK and the EU in 2021, targeting about 20 clinics for 2024, massive growth. They've got a strong, in addition to the clinic side, they've got a strong psychedelic drug development pipeline, obviously targeting addiction. And that's being led by a research and clinical team that is pretty much second to none in the industry. The press release we're talking about today, here's a headline, I'm paraphrasing: results from phase 2 clinical trial for AUD demonstrate a significant decrease in the risk of mortality, 1 in 8 patients versus 1 in 80 patients following the treatment. Anthony, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, George. Great to be back on. Great to speak to you, and great to speak with your audience.
And congratulations to you and your team, not as a shareholder, we'll talk about that in a second, but as a member of the human race, because this is something unbelievable that you may be pulling out for society. Before we get into some of the details, put it into perspective, just overall, how important was this phase 2 trial and the results that came from it?
Well, I think you used a couple of words in your introduction that really hit the nail on the head. Paradigm shift is really what this trial, the results of this trial have demonstrated. 400 million people globally suffer from alcohol use disorder. And for every single one of those, there's a spouse, a child, a friend, a relative, or another family member who are also affected.
Yeah.
Treatment rates are crap. Success rates for those treatments are crap as well. And the reason for that, for example, 75% of people suffering from alcohol use disorder are back drinking, George, within 12 months of seeking treatment. It's just not good enough. The results of this trial, instead of it being a 75% relapse, it was a 14% relapse over the 6 months after treatment.
That's a factor of 5. That's unbelievable.
Groundbreaking. People don't use the word groundbreaking with the results from these kind of trials. Groundbreaking. And that then resulted, that reduction in drinking resulted in the reduction in fatality that you mentioned. Instead of there being 1 in 8 people forecast to die based upon their alcohol consumption before the trial, that changed to 1 in 80. So a 10-fold reduction in the probability of death. That's groundbreaking. Also, statistically.
And by the way, Anthony, I'm not usually blown away. You know, it's tough for me to get blown away by stats and data and things like that. I just want to tell you that factor of 10 decrease in mortality to me is what made me really happy to be an Awakn shareholder when I read the news yesterday.
Yeah. So listen, this is like, not only do we have the ability to reduce the probability or increase the probability of success for people's treatment, but actually that will result in less people dying. Now, that is a bloody good thing to do. Also, we're looking at an increase in liver function, reduction in depression.
Yep.
This really, really has the ability to change outcomes for individuals, their families, and their communities who are so badly affected by this disease. And also, let's be honest, so poorly treated by the incumbent industry that is meant to be helping them.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, look, thank goodness my family hasn't been impacted by AUD or alcoholism. I know there's a distinction there, but I do know it's been a major problem. I've seen friends and people, and it's one of those things where I said, well, that's just the way it's always going to be, because I'm 53 years old. For the last 30 years as an adult, I'm seeing this, and I just kind of gave up. Not even gave up. I just figured this is just the way it's going to be. In your press release, you guys said this study paves the way for a paradigm shift in how AUD is treated. What has been the reaction from the medical community, the AUD community? If it now, maybe it's been too early, in all fairness to you, but any reaction yet from the medical community and the addiction community?
So we've received reaction from the scientific community in the UK.
Okay.
This trial was run in the UK. It was run by the University of Exeter and run by Professor Celia Morgan, who's on our team. And we've in-licensed the outputs and the IP from the trial. So Celia has received really, really strong feedback and support from the scientific and academic community in the UK. George, it's too early at this stage to really gauge the feedback and the temperature from the addiction treatment industry. But you know what's the great thing about how we've set the company up, George, is that we're a biotechnology company, but we've also got a commercialization arm. So we are developing revolutionary treatments for addiction, George. And those revolutionary treatments for addiction are groundbreaking therapeutics. So that's drugs and therapies to be used in combination. We're taking a revolutionary approach to the treatment of addiction, which focuses on brain circuits, so multi-receptor sites rather than individual receptor sites. That's driven by our world-class team in Professor David Nutt, Professor Celia Morgan, amongst other people. That approach gives us the ability to work across both behavioral substance addictions, like alcohol, or behavioral addictions, like gambling, pornography, etc. And we're active in preclinical and clinical stage. But not only that, we've got a commercialization arm, like I said. So we're actually able to deliver these treatments today in the clinics that we own and operate in the UK and in Europe. But also,
and will be soon operating because you guys are constantly growing and growing.
Absolutely. But also beyond that, we've got a therapeutics commercialization business, George, that we're starting to spin up. And we're going to actually license the IP from this trial and train people to deliver this IP. So we're going to license this and target this to the addiction treatment industry, starting off in the US. So early right now for us to get feedback from that industry, but we actually have a proposition where we can help that industry be more effective, George, at a lower price point than they currently are. So we can give them access to the IP. We can train their teams in how to deliver this methodology to enable them to deliver this treatment to their customers in their territories, and thereby enabling us to scale the positive impact that Awakn can have on people suffering from addiction, their families, and their communities.
Man, and by the way, Anthony, you have no idea about the questions I was going to ask you, because that was exactly what is on my list, which, okay, this is great. Part one, I love the fact that you control your own destiny because you've got clinics so you can start commercializing it. But I was also going to say, how do you scale this? Because it's only so fast. I mean, you guys are going to have 20 clinics open by 2024, which is great, but that's not enough to help the entire world. So there's the answer, which is license the IP. So what does that look like, Anthony? Because look, we are shareholders and we do got to talk about the business side. But again, I'm thrilled as a member of the human race as to what you're going to be doing for society. But is it safe to assume that Europe is going to be your domains, given your clinic rollout plan, but the United States, Asia, South and other parts of the world, will you be licensing? And if so, how fast? What do you think that timetable looks like?
That great question. So George, the way that we set the company up is we've got a biotech engine, right? At the core of the company is a biotech engine, and we're developing those therapeutics. So drugs and therapies to be used in combination to address the biggest unmet medical need of modern times, which is addiction. 20% of the planet are affected by a substance addiction, and another many hundreds of millions of people are affected by behavioral addictions. So we're working with ketamine and MDMA right now to develop the therapy side. So ketamine and MDMA-assisted psychotherapy to treat behavioral and substance addictions. We're working with them to develop the therapy side. We're also developing our own compounds. That's the primary core division of the company. Second division of the company is the clinics. And the clinics, that gives us access to real world data that is actually will accelerate our regulatory application and marketing authorization application process. And as you said, the clinics, they're focused on the UK and the EU. And really, that's our go-to-market strategy in the
Right.
UK, EU. And that's a 400 million person territory, George, with $22 trillion per annum in GDP. We're going to have about 20 clinics in the UK, EU. We're not a clinics company. We're a biotechnology company, but we will have some clinics. Those clinics, if worked well, will deliver us 80 million sterling or about $110 million US dollars revenue on an annual basis. But you've hit the nail on the head. That is just 20 clinics. We've got to do more to help people who need to be helped. So the third division of the company is what we call our therapeutics commercialization business. And that is where we commercialize at scale everything that we develop in the biotechnology business. And the first thing that we're going to scale through our therapeutics commercialization business is the IP from that phase 2B clinical trial. We're going to start with the US market, 330 million people. About 14.5 million of those suffer from alcohol use disorder. There were about 900,000 people admitted to hospital in the US in the last 12 months for AUD for the second time or more. There's a 75% failure rate with treatments for alcohol use disorder. So we think we can help more people by commercializing our IP through our therapeutics commercialization business, starting off with licensing this IP into the US alcohol use disorder treatment industry. And we're hoping to start that in Q2 of this year.
So I've got to think 14.5 million people suffering. That's an unimaginable toll. 900,000 being admitted to hospital. And would you know how many actually sought treatment in the old establishment status quo? In other words, or let's get straight to the chase, how big the market might look like right now. By the way, I think however big the market might be right now, I think it's set to grow, because if you're going to provide the addiction community with something that works, you're going to have people more likely to go and use it, as opposed to right now they're saying it doesn't really work.
You've hit the nail on the head there, George. We think a conservative estimate of the private substance addiction treatment industry is about $17.5 billion per annum globally. That's a conservative estimate. It's forecast to grow, just as you said, it's forecast to grow to $30 billion by the end of 2027. We think that's conservative. I mentioned before that the penetration rates are low for treatments for alcohol use disorder and for most addictions because the failure rates are so high. So you take alcohol use disorder, only 16% of people who have that condition that condition seek treatment because the failure rates are so high. So if companies like us are able to develop and deliver more effective treatments for substance addictions, we think that market opportunity will be greater than the 17 billion today, with a forecast 30 billion by end 27. But then when you look at our solution, which is driven at targeting the brain circuits that house and drive addictive behaviors, that gives us the ability to treat both substance and behavioral addictions, we think the market size could be even greater than a highly penetrated substance addiction market. So really, we think the market opportunity is perhaps a multiple of the current $30 billion if more effective, more broadly applicable treatments are available. And that's the goal we're driving towards, George.
And it almost seems too good to be true. It almost seems like this sounds just too perfect to capture this big market. But third-party validation on the AWKN is very important. And you have a newly formed partnership with the UK National Healthcare Service, which was they were part of this, correct?
So third-party validation is really important. So that trial, the results of that trial was published in the American Journal of Psychiatry, which is the highest impact journal globally in this field. So that's a pretty good validation. Yeah, we signed a memorandum of understanding between ourselves, the National Health Service in the UK, which is the second largest purchaser of healthcare services in the world, with an annual budget of $200 billion. And it was a tripartite agreement, ourselves, the NHS, and the University of Exeter. The core purpose of that, there was sort of three core arms to that agreement. One was to assess the operational readiness of the NHS to deliver ketamine-assisted therapy for addiction and depression. So that's brilliant. we're working with them to help test and assess how ready they are to deploy these services that we're developing. Second part of it was to compare and contrast cost and effectiveness of using ketamine-assisted therapy delivered by Awakn for addiction and depression against cost and effectiveness of those treatments being delivered within the NHS. And the third part that we're really excited about, George, was to potentially assess how to bring the research forward from a phase 2B into a phase 3. And the great thing is Professor Celia Morgan, she's already written the trial protocol for that phase 3. And we're now in discussions with the National Healthcare Research Institute in the UK for co-funding, for it to be run within NHS infrastructure, to bring that research forward to secure marketing authorization, which is the EU version or the UK version and EU version of regulatory approval. So to secure a regulatory approval for ketamine-assisted therapy to treat alcohol use disorder in the UK. And if that works, then we would hope for that to be available through the NHS and or reimbursed by the insurance companies, enabling us to more effectively treat the 600,000 people in the UK who suffer from alcohol use disorder.
And I've got to think that the UK, the NHS, has got to be pretty excited about the prospects of this, because you're not an expense. This is an expense that they have to add on. Technically, it's an expense, but there's a massive ROI component to this, right, Anthony? Because if you got 600,000 people suffering from AUD just in the UK alone, and you can help a big portion of them get back to being normal, functioning people in society, which means less reliance on government services, less reliant on social welfare, because kids, all the terrible things that happen, unemployment, that, because they lose their jobs, they go on unemployment. I got to figure, and I don't know if this has been calculated, but there's got to be a pretty big ROI for getting George off his addiction and getting him back into quote unquote a normal functioning person in society, right?
We absolutely believe so. And I think, that's evidence from one evidence is the improved liver function in the phase 3 trial. Liver disease is the biggest killer of people who suffer from alcohol use disorder. So if you can reduce that, you reduce total cost of treatment. But another thing about cost that you mentioned is the great thing about how this trial was designed and the methodology that we've in-licensed from the trial is the biggest challenge for the healthcare service in general, but also the psychedelic-assisted therapy industry, is a shortage of staff to deliver these treatments. The trial was designed for the therapy to be delivered by low-intensity therapists or relatively inexperienced and therefore lower cost therapists, thereby addressing two things. For commercial partners, they can deliver this service at a lower price point or a higher margin. So for the licensing partner, the therapeutics commercialization proposition that we're looking to go into in the US, we have a solution that has been proven in a clinical trial to be more effective than anything currently available. And because of how it has been designed, it can be delivered at a lower price point, lower cost base. So therefore a lower price or a higher margin, depending upon what their business model is. And then when you translate that over into the public healthcare system in the UK, again, it ticks many boxes for the public healthcare system. It addresses the staffing challenge that they have, and it addresses the total cost of burden, the total cost of treatment that they would have as well.
You're almost making it plug and play.
Exactly.
Plug and treat. I should say plug and treat, not plug and play.
Perfect. The model that we're looking for our therapeutics commercialization, it's actually what I call a ketamine clinic in a box. So the proposition for the US market is access to the IP, training of their staff, architectural designs for how to design and implement a mini ketamine clinic within their infrastructure, because scene and setting is so important for psychedelic assisted therapy. So here's the design package for 3 psychedelic assisted psychotherapy treatment rooms and a relaxation area, which could plug into your infrastructure. And systems, because we've signed a memorandum of understanding with MindCure for them to be our distribution partner on a technology basis for this approach. So this is really, it's a ketamine clinic in a box. IP, training, systems, design. There you go.
Yeah, because it is a brand new industry. And if you leave it up to different people trying to figure out how to deploy it, that alone could become a mess at the end of the day. So by creating literally, a solution in a box, you eliminate all of that and makes it even that much more attractive. Not that it needed to be, but man, that's a final finishing part. That's fantastic. So, Anthony, did these results even surpass your own expectations? I know you guys went into this with confidence, but did it even surpass your own expectations? And if so, now that you've got these results, where do you see the company a year or two from now? And I'm not talking about stock price or revenue projections, but just in terms of being a major global player in the treatment of AUD and other addictions.
So did it surpass our expectations, George? It absolutely did. An 86% abstinence. The people coming into this trial had on average a 2% abstinence before treatment.
That's brutal.
The people who went through ketamine-assisted therapy in that arm of the trial, they had an 86% abstinence rate on average over the 6 months after the trial. So from 2%
Phenomenal.
to 86%. That absolutely knocked our expectations out of the park. Where do we see us in a year or two?
Almost wiping out the problem, because 2% to 86 that's covering the whole range.
There is going to be people tailing down over time, but ideally, what we'd like to do is we'd like to get people to a position of a healthy relationship with alcohol. Is kind of the golden aim. I think, where do we see the company? Yeah, we would view our hope to be the leading company in the psychedelics industry focused on the treatment of addiction. That's the goal for the company. Can we get there? Yeah, we can. We've got the best team in the world. Professor 𝗏, Professor Celia Morgan, Dr. 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, amongst other key players in the industry working for us. We've got the ex-chief commercial officer, global chief commercial officer of Gilead Pharmaceuticals, just joined our board. We've got the former CEO of the Priory, which is the largest privately held addiction treatment company in the UK, on our board. So we've got the best team. We've got really strong research programs across preclinical, where we're developing our own compounds, and we would aim to be first time in man or first time in human next year with our own compounds. And we're also running groundbreaking world first studies for behavioral addictions, using treating ketamine with them. We also hope to bring an MDMA forward into phase 2B and bring the ketamine trial for alcohol use disorder forward into phase 3. So where do I see ourselves in a year or two? It's ideally to be at the top of the pile of the psychedelics industry with a specialism on treating addiction.
And you got the data to back it up, because there are a lot of CEOs who will say, that's where I want to be. But it's one thing to talk the talk. It's another thing to walk the walk. And Anthony, it's not often I get excited about press release in the small cap space. Don't wrong. I'm enthusiastic. I'm optimistic. I love to see incremental success in all our clients. But man, this news, when it came out yesterday, to me, just got me. I said it at the beginning. I say it again. It just got me excited as a human, first of all, to know that there's so many families, friends, people, and the suffering around the world. And that, finally, after watching nothing from the status quo, like next to nothing over the last 30 years, it's great to see what you guys put forward. Can't wait to see next steps. Can't wait to have you back on, because I'm sure there's phase 3. There's talk about licensing. I can't wait to see. You're in the American Journal of Psychiatry now, and I can't wait for that to take the time to hit everyone's desks around the world and see the feedback from them. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave last words to you, but I'm still going to say congratulations to you and the team for doing this. Last word to you, Anthony.
Thank you very much, George. Last word to me. Look, what drives us every single day, George? It's to provide hope for the individuals, the families, and communities who are so badly affected by addiction and who are poorly served by the incumbent industry. That's what we do. That's what drives us every single day. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and it's a pleasure to speak to your audience.
Thank you, Anthony. You've got your full support of your shareholders to do something great for the world. And hey, if a double bonus that comes out of it is it does something great for our portfolios, then that's a win-win. And congratulations. Can't wait to have you back, my friend.
Thank you very much, man. Take care.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Anthony Tennyson, he's CEO of Awakn Life Sciences Corp. Trades in Canada under AWKN. For our friends in the US, AWKNF. For those of you who are looking for your next great small cap psychedelics company, 2 ways to do your due diligence. 1, get to Agoracom, get to the company's profile page where we have a good 1,000-foot overview, because we know that psychedelics are new. All these things are new. So we give you a layman's overview of what the company is doing. But then from there, link over to the Awakn website, do your deep dive due diligence, watch this interview again, read the press release again. The numbers are undeniable. Just don't say 12 months from now we didn't tell you so. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time. Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.